Hey everyone, thank you for joining me. It's your boy Hoos. Let's just get to the topic at hand. Sony and Bluepoint Studio. Sony has decided to go ahead and shut down Bluepoint Studio out of the blue. So let's get into the topic, talk about that. I'd like to hear what you guys think about it as well. Now, Sony has decided to shut them down completely. It looks like it's going to be effective sometime in March 2026. Bluepoint Studios is one of those studios that made remakes and they did them exceptionally well. So after a series of successes in those remake titles, Sony bought them up and brought them into the fold. Now with Sony's decisions to shutter the company, that leaves roughly 70 employees that are staffed in Bluepoint Studio to be looking for a new job and a new career. Sony does intend to try to fold some of them back into PlayStation Studios, but it's not a guarantee. Now, this is a contentious situation in terms of how the fan base view it, because Bluepoint's track record is spectacular, especially when it's focused on just the remakes and remasters. There's not too much more under their ledger in what they've developed. But when they developed a remaster or a remake, it's been exceptional and highly touted. So for them to be completely just canceled and taken away is a stunning move by Sony. So Bluepoint Games is a studio based out of Texas. They were known again for the remakes and remasters they've done. Sony acquires them after their successes in the year of 2021. And since then, they have been working as co-developers on different games like God of War Ragnarok, and that was after they had their success with Demon Souls remake back in 2020. Their reputation was really built on their successes with the few remakes and remasters that they've made, like Uncharted, the Nathan Drake series or collection, Shadow of the Colossus, and the Demon Souls remake, as I mentioned. All of these games were critically acclaimed and fan favorites for a bunch of gamers out there. Now, after they did their Demon Souls remake, that's when they were purchased by Sony. And the next thing Sony put them on, or at least that we're aware of, is a live service game for God of War. Now, that game itself never saw the daylight. It was canceled back in early 2025. So no one's seen it. All we know is that Sony's seen it. They said, never mind, cancel that. And that's all Bluepoint has been doing throughout their time period under the Sony umbrella. Now, it was reported that Bluepoint did try to pitch a bunch of their own ideas to Sony, and that did not go through with them. And then a year later, eventually they got canceled by Sony and are going to be shut down in March. Sony themselves are saying that this was one of the decisions they came to after they've had a recent internal review and decided that Bluepoint would need to get shut down. And like I mentioned earlier, they were going to be taking some of their talent from those studios and then placing it in their own studios in PlayStation Studio. But that's not a guarantee, especially determining how many they're going to retain. Now, with this shutdown, this just adds to the growing list of moves that PlayStation has been making, that's making a lot of concerns for people in the gaming industry. With Sony doing that, it's another it's another addition to their list of shutdown studios as well as layoffs. That's showing that the studio is struggling in some manner, and also signals to a massive internal shift that's happening with the company itself. Now, a lot of people out there, fans as well as other reporting agencies, feel like this is just another sign that there is terrible mismanagement that's happening within PlayStation itself, and that's leading to these failures and these decisions to close down these studios and these layoffs just due to their lack of success and ability to do any good with these games that they're making. Now, the main thing that goes into the idea of them mismanaging is just the context of taking Bluepoint Studio, this studio well renowned for remakes, remasters, and putting them on a live service game that no one asked for. Not a soul asked for this. You're making a live service game for a game that is mainly a solo player, single story, narrative driven game, and trying to force it into a live service structure. And no one, like I said, asked for that. It doesn't make sense to be doing that. But this has been a trend for Sony. They've been pushing every opportunity, any chance they can think of to try to capitalize on live service, because it does well. It does pretty decent as long as you hit it right and do a good job at making it something compelling, unique, and interesting, it is something that will give you good returns as a studio. Sony has failed to do that majority of the time. They've gotten a few successes with Helldiver and some other opportunities previously, and they're still chasing that golden goose. They're trying to find that live service game that will continue to profit on them for a long time coming, and they've been wasting money left and right trying to do that. The greatest example of such failure is Concord. That thing was a terrible flop. Millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars spent to produce that game over many years, to bring it out and have it live for only 14 days at most, and then they had to cancel it, refund everybody, all of that in the drain. That's just a clear sign to people that something went wrong and you guys are handling it terribly. And then now you take something like Bluepoint Game, a studio that is known for remakes, remasters, and successfully doing those where they became critically acclaimed, and then you put them on a live service game that no one asked for. If that doesn't scream mismanagement, what does? Like, that makes no sense. It's like trying to write with your left hand when you've exclusively written with your right hand. It makes no sense to do that unless you were expecting and desiring bad outcomes. But that's what they've done. And that, to me, screams mismanagement. To other people, it definitely screams mismanagement. So hopefully they get this all straightened out, because man, this looks ugly. It looks ugly as hell, because it's disappointing to see a studio, 70 lives impacted due to poor management by Sony in terms of what they've assigned them to do and what they expected from them. It makes no sense. None of this stuff correlates. However, we don't know the behind the scenes. We don't know if there's more to it that we don't understand. But from what we've gathered, at least from the outside, it looks like they blew it. They dropped the ball on this bad. And now the people of Bluepoint Studios are the ones paying the price, because obviously Sony themselves, they're going to be fine. At the end of the day, they're a big studio. They have the money. They have the backup. They will be fine. People that are in that studio, they're screwed. At the end of the day, they got bought by this company. They were taken care of for a little bit, put in a horrible position. And then after that, stripped of their livelihood. After that, they did not succeed or do as well as Sony desired. So it's just a weird situation to have happened. And it just seems like Sony has put themselves in that position just due to their incompetence on allocating their resources in the right places. Like, why would you have them do something like why would you not have them do something more related to remasters, remakes, what they have been successful their entire time with, and shoehorn them into a live service game, and then let alone one that's not what anybody is asking for. Again, Sony's been chasing this live service game system for the longest. They're still doing it again with Horizon's Hunter's Gathering. It looks okay. It's just a way off base type of game in compared to the mainline. Why would you waste Guerrilla Games' time having them do a live service game for a series which is doing well, instead of having them just do a third installment or focus all their efforts into it to get it out sooner? Instead, you have them splitting off, having to do that, hoping that it succeeds, and hoping now, at this point, based on what happened to Bluepoint, they don't face repercussions for it not doing well. So it's concerning from the outside looking in. Again, they might have something else behind the scenes that indicated that they needed to go ahead and axe Bluepoint Studios, but it's a trend with them in terms of looking for a live service game, canceling or closing down a studio, laying off mass amounts of people. So things don't look great for PlayStation and Sony. So we just gotta hope they figure this out and get it all together, because right now, they're on very shaky ground. They look like they are completely incompetent in terms of how they're handling this. So if they can get their stuff together and get out of this, and maybe they have a strong next few years, maybe all this will go under the water. Unfortunately, it won't for those 70 people in the studio, and hopefully they get back on their feet themselves. So let me know what you think, how you feel about this situation, because this is a massive thing to have happened in the game world. A titan like Sony blowing it like this, fumbling the bag when they could have easily put Bluepoint on something like a Bloodborne remake or something that people would want to see. They could have been the team that would be handling the God of War trilogy and that would have been phenomenal, most likely, because obviously there's concerns with that. But they've chose to axe them, and now they have to figure out something for themselves, and we got to see if Sony can bounce back from this nonsense. So let me know what you think. Tell me your opinions and thoughts on how Sony handled this, and if you agree with it, if you have any feelings about it, love to hear it down below in the comments. Aside of that, thank you for joining me. Like, subscribe, really helps the channel. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. And until the next video, be blessed.